The Gallipoli Campaign of 1915–16, also known as the Battle of Gallipoli or the Dardanelles Campaign, was an unsuccessful attempt by the Allied powers to control the sea route from Europe to Russia. During the First World War, the campaign began with a failed naval attack by British and French ships in the Dardanelles in February to March 1915 and continued with a major land invasion of the Gallipoli Peninsula on 25 April, involving British and French troops as well as corps divisions of the Australian and New Zealand military. Lack of intelligence and sufficient knowledge of the terrain, together with a stiff Turkish resistance, prevented the success of the invasion. By mid-October, Allied forces had suffered heavy casualties and had made little progress from their initial landing sites. The evacuation began in December 1915 and ended at the beginning of the following January. Thousands of Albanians from almost all ethnic groups took part in the Canakkale War, because in 1915, even though the independent Albanian state had been declared, the border had not been set, while the military forces of the Ottoman Empire were everywhere in the four Albanian vilayets, at war to face the Christian Slavic and European alliance, which made no distinction between Albanians, Turks, Muslim Bosniaks, Jews and all non-Christians. It is an undeniable truth that many Albanians were mobilized to go and defend Turkey, which they still considered their country, but there were more others who had flocked to Turkey since the beginning of the Balkan Wars, when there began the downpour of Slavic, Russian, Bulgarian, Serbian armies in the war to undo Turkey and everything they considered Turkish, primarily based on religious grounds. Tens of thousands of Turks, Albanians, Bosniaks, Jews and others were killed during the flight. Earlier that year, Grand Duke Nicholas of Russia appealed to Britain for help in confronting a Turkish invasion of the Caucasus. The Ottoman Empire had entered World War I on the side of the Central Powers, Germany and Austria-Hungary, in November 1914. In response, the Allies decided to launch a naval expedition to occupy the Dardanelles, a narrow passage connecting Aegean Sea to the Sea of Marmara in northwestern Turkey. If successful, the capture of the straits would allow the Allies to link up with the Russians in the Black Sea, where they could work together to knock Turkey out of the war. The Entente powers, Britain, France and Russia, tried to weaken the Ottoman Empire, one of the Central Powers, by taking control of the straits that provided a supply route to Russia. In January 1916, after 8 months of fighting, with nearly 250,000 casualties on each side, the land campaign was abandoned and the invasion force withdrawn. It was a costly loss for the Allies and sponsors, especially the First Lord of the Admiralty, 1911–1915, Winston Churchill. The campaign was hailed as a great Ottoman victory. In Turkey, it is hailed as a defining moment in the country's history, a final surge in homeland defense as the Ottoman Empire fell. The battle formed the basis for the Turkish War of Independence and the proclamation of the Republic of Turkey 8 years later, with Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, who emerged as the most prominent commander at Gallipoli, and as the founder and first president of Post